Folks, welcome to our fourth DRUID Talks webcast. Today's topic is Fast IT, a new industry trend for 2023. In a world where everything isn't fast forward, we explore how fast IT can help businesses operate conveniently, efficiently, and in a cost-effective manner with the guest of the fourth episode of DRUID Talks, Vargha Moayed. Vargha is an entrepreneur and advisor to company founders, a venture partner at White Star Capital, a hyper-generalist, and a keen supporter of the latest technologies. And today we're going to cover a range of technologies, going to help us understand a little bit more. What is fast IT and who needs it? What and which are considered fast IT technologies? The benefits and the shortcomings, if any, of implementing fast IT in your organization. The place of conversational AI, which I think, Vargha, you quoted in your article, Fast IT, is part of the dawn of this new technology disruption. We can't but talk about ChatGPT and its fit amongst fast IT technologies. And then, of course, for businesses, we're going to look at the short, the medium, and the long-term to-do plan to benefit from fast IT. Vargha, welcome to our fourth DRUID Talks webcast. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
If we kick in, Vargha, the very first question, what is fast IT as you defined it in your excellent Medium article, and that's medium.com? Are we looking at an old concept, or is this something a little bit more recent?
Well, first of all, why did I call it fast IT? It struck me as an analogy with fast fashion. If you think of fast fashion, what is fast fashion in reality? It's a fashion that changes often, or something that is produced very fast every 6 months or 12 months. It is something that is cost competitive. It is something that is actually relatively pleasant to use. Usually they're quite fashionable, the latest design. And finally, it's a piece that you have in your wardrobe that you might not use forever. It's not a timeless piece. Now, if we make the parallel with the world of IT and information systems, we realize that organizations need fast IT. They need something, an IT that is indeed fast to develop and deploy, that is cost effective, that is easy to use, therefore, pleasant, therefore easy to use. I guess that's what I meant to say. And then indeed, that might not be something that a company might be using for decades, but probably just for months, couple of months. So that's the parallel. That's what fast IT is. And I think it is actually truly a new category of enterprise software, and that is underlined by several technologies that we will talk about later.
Well, if we jump into that, let's move straight to that, if you don't mind. What technologies are part of fast IT? Because fast fashion, it's something we dispose of, we throw away. It's not meant to be long-term and not meant to be valuable. So are we suggesting these fast IT technologies follow that same mold or that same trend?
Yes, in a way, I'm not afraid of saying that there is even there a certain parallel. In reality, there are many things, the business world is evolving very fast. Again, business plan, most companies no longer do 5-year strategic plan unless you're in the utility, things that require very heavy investments. And business cycles and innovation have become shorter. As a result, digitization needs, particularly digitization need on, I would say, back office processes or non-core in the sense of all the support services processes, and in companies who are in the service industry on all of their processes, such as the banking and insurance, that these processes, they change or they need to change on average every 18 months or so, believe it or not. So therefore, they need to be digitized super fast. And it's okay if they're revisited 6 months, 12 months, 8 months later. So there are a host of workflows and processes that are not going to stay the same for decades. So there is no need to be building things that take a year to build, because by the time you build it, user requirements have already changed. So yes, they can have a short shelf life, and that's okay. actually exist in companies. I know a lot of traditional IT directors haven't realized it yet or don't want to see it, but it's a reality.
Well, you mentioned a moment ago that fast IT is needed, and now you've mentioned chief technology office or CTOs
Or CIO.
or CIOs. Who does need fast IT? Because in the article as well, you mentioned that the business is co-producers. So is it just the technology departments that need fast IT, and those are the people who will use it? Is it the business? Is it everyone?
I think it's everywhere. But let me step back a moment and say, indeed, why is fast IT needed today? Let's look at the landscape of companies. Companies have been digitizing for decades. I know we talk about digitization; it's a very trendy word, but in reality, they started digitizing to a certain extent since the mini computer, or so in the 50s, and there are several waves of information technology. And as a result, if you look at the large organization today, if you look at the landscape of their information system, 30 years ago, you would have few, dozens of applications and few databases. Fast forward today, you have hundreds of, thousands of applications and hundreds of databases. So, and they had been traditionally digitizing according to function. So they started with, I don't know if they started, but they did back office functions with ERPs, front office with CRM. Then they deployed things in the supply chain, and it was logical. Today, because of digitally native companies that this incumbent company have as a competitors, and because of the speed in which things evolve, they need actually to be digitizing according to workflows that goes from production, whatever that production is, to the customer experience. And they are faced with legacy system and multiple databases. So they can't, not just like digitally native companies, scrap everything and go out of business for a couple of years until they build something that is according to workflows. So they need to work with what they have and need to respond fast. 2020 study from McKinsey shows that fast companies outperform their peers by 2.5 times more. So part of being a fast company also means to be able to digitize quickly according to the ever-changing demands of your customer and providing a customer experience that looks like a digitally native company. So what do you do if you're a CIO? You have to connect legacy system and legacy databases to be able to digitize according to a workflow. So for that, you have APIs, and I'm not going to get into detail because I want to answer what's within fast IT. But you need to do it fast, so it has to be cost effective. So therefore, you need the technology again that deploys fast, that develops fast. It has to be cost effective because IT companies, there is a real problem with talent. There are not enough IT professionals. So you cannot deploy your precious IT professional to be digitizing things that seems as they're going to have only 12, 18 months shelf life. That's not your priority because you're still working on the highways of the big infrastructure, and that's what you worry about. And it's not cost effective. So therefore, you need that now. The user, the business technologist, I call them, or the citizen developer, they become co-producer of these needs. So you need a tool that is easy to use so that it allows other people not just to be consumers of it, but to be a co-producers of IT. So we can see that there are multiple trends that have come together to make fast IT a requirement today. Business is going faster. There is legacy systems. You need to be cost effective, and you don't have enough IT talent. So all of these has their fundamental trends that make the necessity for a new category of tools that I call fast IT, that is a necessity for organizations across the world. And I'm almost going to say, even though I made my example with very large organization, but across the board, actually.
That's interesting because, again, I think we've seen recently with ChatGPT and other technologies like that before people thought automation and intelligent tooling and fast IT was very much for blue collar tasks, administrative, clerical. In your article, you said with the emergence of fast IT, there's now a set of technologies that can match the speed and agility of human intelligence, but on steroids. That's quite a statement and may shock a lot of people who previously, Vargha, thought their intelligent jobs were very much protected. Why did you say that particular phrase? Can match human intelligence on steroids?
Because, you know, if you look at traditional, again, IT, let's take again an ERP system. The ERP system imposes its logic on people. It says, this is how we built the software. Therefore, you need to adapt your processes to and it's very rigid, and you do it a certain way. And in fact, people realize that that's why fast IT is needed, that people create many other things that are not according to plan because it changes a lot. And that is where we thought for the longest time it was the privy of humans, because only humans had the agility and the intelligence to be able to constantly adapt to changing needs. Now, when we look at the technologies that constitute fast IT, and let me spell them out a bit now, these are basically things that can use legacy systems and databases to connect applications that exist, or to build net new application using existing databases. So these are RPA, APIs, the large categories of low code development, and they're all infused with AI. And that's kind of the intelligent part. When you have AI, you can now automate even processes that have decision points who are not only rule-based. Because, for instance, a robot can, at a decision point, can call upon an algorithm to know what path to take. Let's take, for instance, the claims in an insurance company. A robot can put together all the data required for the claim, and it taps into different databases. Who are the parties to the claim? What kind of policy the person had? What are the circumstances of the claim? And instead of giving that to a claim officer, feeds that data into the algorithm. The algorithm provides an answer with a confidence interval. And by the way, humans' confidence interval is 97.5 or 98. In other words, humans make 2.5% mistake usually in their decisions. So if it comes back with 98% confidence you should pay, the robot continues. Now, what have we done? We've done something that is as agile and has used existing databases, existing application to basically digitize an entire process like several humans would have done. There would have been some humans to enter the data, to collect the data, another human, the claim officer, to make the decision, and another human in the accounting department to wire, let's say, the money to the insurer. So all of these now have been done with this collection of automation without, and that is why do I say it on steroid? Because obviously, in terms of productivity and the speed at which it works, it is much faster than human. It's not error prone. And so you still have the agility of humans because it works with existing databases and legacy systems, with the way we do business, with the workflow, the way it is. And it can handle exceptions, by the way, because if the AI comes back and says, yes, please, you can pay, but only with 80% confidence interval, then you can give it to a human, which can make a decision. By the way, the decision is refed into the algorithm, which makes the algorithm better. And then let's talk about conversational AI. You can even make it easier in the sense that some of the input and the backput that you have, you don't even have to be typing anymore. You can do it, or you can be typing, but you don't have to have an interface of use that is a software interface, but use human language, which is the way we express ourselves the best.
Is conversational AI a fast IT technology?
It is a component of it, because again, when I describe fast IT, one thing that was important was pleasant to use, therefore easy to use, therefore co-production, therefore easy to adopt. So conversation, it's still the easiest way that humans provide input and make decisions. So therefore, yes, it is definitely contributing to the family of fast IT, because it's a key component of the pleasant and easy to use, therefore also then cost competitive to deploy. Imagine, since you were talking about ChatGPT, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but
yeah, I have a question for you as well, Vargha.
Go ahead.
Would you place ChatGPT amongst the fast IT technologies that you mentioned earlier on? And
Yeah,
now?
absolutely. ChatGPT is an enabler. It's an amazing step forward in natural language processing, and so it is an enabler. You actually saw that ChatGPT allows even to do OpenAI Codex, which is basically an ability now to AI to develop on its own a code. So imagine for a minute, and we are at the beginning. ChatGPT is part of what we call foundation AI, which is models, which is a new category of models that we're basically moving from the artisanal stage of AI to the industrial stage of AI. 4 years ago, a model with 110 million parameters like BERT of Google was considered wow. If I'm not mistaken, GPT-3, on which ChatGPT is based, is 175 billion parameters. And the next one is going to be GPT-4. They're announcing 100 trillion parameters, and will probably be in 2 years at 500 trillion parameters. So that allows you to have these models that you can then move, and that's what they have done. They moved it from conversation to codex to image, and it's kind of, and then you just have to tweak them. Anyway, I don't want to get too technical. So imagine now with codex, and why this ChatGPT, which codex is just a branch of it in a way, it can actually code. So imagine you're a user. Then we're moving up from fast IT to ultra fast IT. You're a user, and you would say to a software robot, observe what I'm doing, which RPA can already do today with task mining and process mining. Observe what I'm doing and automate it. So, and you can say it in language, observe what I'm doing now, start, finish, automate it. And then you already have, again, the observe is already done, computer vision, which is the underlying of RPA. And then automate is basically developing the script, and it can auto-develop its script, the automation script. So now it's not even fast IT, it's ultra fast IT. You don't need an IT department. Huh?
It's a second article, I think, now, which I'm looking forward to. It's one of the first things I've seen in a while, and I wrote about this recently, that I think is both exciting and scary. It's almost a seminal moment in that ChatGPT has shown that white-collar tasks can be automated. And I don't think white-collar workers, they were probably living in this false space that suggested that their tasks were so unique and so innately wonderful that automation wasn't going to impact them. Now I think we're at the start of another revolution that will show us that actually generative AI, and if there are billions and trillions of data points or calculations been involved, now we are starting to match human brain power, and it'll be interesting to see the next numbers of years unfold. Let me ask you two more questions, Vargha, if you don't mind. First question. There surely are benefits, as we have described, of fast IT, but there must be shortcomings as well for organizations. What are your key benefits for organizations, and what are the shortcomings that you believe organizations will face? And are there actual ways of addressing those shortcomings?
Sure. I think the benefits, we kind of mentioned them as we were describing it. It allows to unburden the IT departments to be able to actually cost effectively and fast deploy digitization of workflow which companies need dearly, because it will allow them to be in this co-production mode and then unburden themselves. It allows to have very quick ROIs rather than, again, traditional IT that was, using years of development. It uses agile methodologies. So it is cost effective, it is fast, and it solves the talent shortage problem and providing a much faster ROI. Now, the challenge, quite frankly, is mainly organizational, because it's new. So, and you have seen, especially in the case of RPA, which I was involved in for several years, you see that the tools are being adopted directly by businesses, and therefore quickly comes the question of who does what. How is the work getting organized between business who want to develop things from their own and IT that worries about governance, security, scalability, and technological depth, and things that can go wild and unruly. So the main challenge is an organizational one, is to decide who does what, according to which rule. What is the new role of IT, from one of doing to one of coaching and providing the overall governance? So the struggles that we have seen in the early days in many organizations, they are mainly how to get organized around this. What kind of skill set? For instance, traditionally in IT, they only had truly IT skill set. Fast IT, because it's very workflow oriented, in addition to truly only IT skill set, also requires a skill set on process reengineering, a business analyst, and it requires that these people work together. So mainly a question of skills. How do you get organized? What is the overall governance structure? And how do you tackle security issues with this new technology?
Fantastic. One more question. What should companies do in the short, medium, and long term? And I'll let you pick those times, Vargha. Is that 6, 12, 18 months to take advantage of fast IT?
Well, I think step number one is to familiarize oneself with all the different technologies that are composing fast IT. And the second step is to let a thousand flower bloom, which is, not being afraid of letting a lot of users develop things on their own and familiarize themselves with these tools and let them play with it. I know this is something that really scares CIOs and IT department, but there will be a phase like this from which they will reap a lot of benefits. And then there is a phase of putting together, as I said, this governance model on, who does what, according to which rules, what systems are a no that, business cannot touch. What are the things that they can do? How is the quality control done by the IT department? So these are kind of the phases. IT itself familiarizes itself, department with the tool, so that it's not a mystery and they're not afraid of it. Let a thousand flower bloom. Encourage actually training of those who are interested in the organization about using these technologies. Let them, quote unquote, play with it and develop their own things. And then at the third phase to say, okay, now many people have done it. We're going to start to get organized. We are going to have rules of engagement, governance rules, and we are going to clarify who does what is done only by IT, there's a quality control by IT, what is only quality control by peer groups, etc., etc.
Vargha, thank you so much. You've sold fast IT to me. If I'm getting efficiency, speed, flexibility, greater innovation, and we're getting everyone involved in rolling out technology, that is something that's passion in my own heart. I believe, a bit like as you've said and as McKinsey have said, faster organizations that can do these things will be a lot more efficient in the digital age than anyone else. And it doesn't guarantee their success, but they're likely to be a lot more successful than those organizations that don't.